Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name's Austin. No one just walks away from a marriage on a whim. But when I found out my wife was cheating at a party when she said she was going to the restroom and left her purse with me, I found a piece of tissue on the table and wrote a short note. Then I took off my wedding ring, dropped it into her purse along with the note, stood up, and walked out. But I don't want you to think this was impulsive. This isn't just about what happened that night. That night was just the breaking point. Let me take you back and show you how we got here. I met Lauren in college when I was trying to balance coursework and building the early stages of what would later become my business. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. We connected during one of those dreaded group projects. Our group was supposed to meet once a week, but Lauren and I always ended up staying behind after everyone else left. At first, it was just about the work, but somewhere between the late-night research, something shifted. We kind of connected on a different level. We started walking each other back to our dorms after meetings. And over time, those walks got longer and our conversations got deeper. Everything felt easy with her. After college, we didn't waste much time. We got married. The early years were golden. We were young, but we weren't naive. We knew life would get complicated down the line, but we were so sure we could take it on together. We had our routines, and we made love like we meant it. I had a business that gave me freedom. That flexibility meant I could show up for her in ways that mattered. I took on the little things, the background things, not because I had to, but because I wanted her to feel supported and loved. In those years, I didn't feel like I was giving anything up. I thought we were on the same page, chasing the same kind of future. But love, I've learned, doesn't freeze in time. It either grows or it slips quietly, sometimes without you even noticing. And by the time you do, well, sometimes it's already too late. At first, it was small stuff like a missed dinner here, a cold tone there. Arguments that used to end in hugs and laughs now ended in silence. After a disagreement, she'd roll over and go to sleep. Lauren's career had always mattered to her, and I admired that about her in the beginning. She was sharp, driven, and never afraid to push herself. But somewhere along the way, that drive became an obsession. She started chasing promotions like oxygen. Every new milestone only fed the hunger for the next. I didn't resent her success, but I did resent how everything else in our life had to shrink to make room for it. Our dinners turned into takeout, eaten separately. Weekends that used to be about us became booked with work functions and conferences. It wasn't just her time she gave up, it was us. And then there was the lack of intimacy. Months passed where sex felt unfamiliar. She is always tired and not in the mood. I tried to stay patient, hoping this was a season, that things would balance out eventually. I also wanted kids, but you can't build a family when you're not even a couple anymore. You can't grow something on empty ground. Every time I brought up our lack of connection, Lauren got defensive. She'd say I wasn't being supportive, that I didn't understand how much pressure she was under. She'd ask for time to reach her career goals, and then she'd slow down. But I couldn't shake the feeling that it was a stall. A polite way of saying, don't hold your breath. Whenever I tried to press on the issue, she exploded. She'd turn it around on me, and instead of leaning in to fix what was broken, she buried herself deeper in work. It got to a point where I started wondering if it was just work. There were moments that didn't sit right with me. There was this one name that kept popping up on her phone. He calls and texts late at night. She'd leave the room to answer, always saying it was something urgent from work. When I asked more than once, she'd snap, "Why are you so paranoid? Don't you trust me?" And if I kept asking, she'd throw accusations back at me, saying maybe I was the one doing something wrong. I just wanted answers, but every conversation left me more confused and drained. It was like trying to build a bridge with someone who's holding the matches. After a while, I stopped bringing it up. Not because it stopped bothering me, but because I knew how it would end in another argument and more distance. By the time we crossed into the 6th year of our marriage, I had slowly gotten to my limit. On the surface, everything looked fine. We were financially stable, lived in a nice home, and both had our careers. But inside that house, and inside our marriage, It was empty. And yet, I couldn't bring myself to walk away. I thought about divorce a lot. I was in a good place, business-wise. Lauren had climbed the corporate ladder faster than either of us expected, and I was proud of her. But even with all the money and success between us, we were emotionally bankrupt. Still, I hesitated. There was something about tearing down what we had built together that just felt wrong. Like setting fire to a house you spent years painting and furnishing. I kept going back to the good times. I couldn't shake the feeling that if we had that once, maybe we could find it again. Maybe she was just too deep in her career right now to see what she was missing. So I concluded that I'd give it one more shot. That night, I sat her down in the living room and asked her, "Would you consider couples therapy? I think maybe we need to realign. It feels like we've lost our way a bit." She laughed and asked, "Why?" I told her that we might need someone external to remind us why we married, and maybe things will move fine from there. She stood up and said, "Our relationship is not that bad to need a therapist." Then walked away. I don't know if she realized it, but that moment shattered something in me. I had come to her with what little hope I had left, offering a way forward. That was the night I stopped fighting. I just pulled away. In the days that followed, I started withdrawing. I stopped trying to fix things. The version of me that used to chase after her affection, plan date nights, and leave little notes around the house was gone. I started doing research on my own, not about how to save the marriage, but how to end it. Quietly, I reached out to a divorce lawyer because I had questions that needed answers. Got information. I needed to know what it would look like and what I'd have to prepare for if I finally chose to walk away. Even though I hadn't made the decision yet, just knowing my options made everything feel more real. And deep down, I think a part of me already knew the end was coming. I just hadn't admitted it yet. One Wednesday evening, I had been keeping my distance lately, and Lauren had picked up on it. You'd have to be completely blind not to. I wasn't initiating conversations much. I didn't ask how her day was anymore, and when she shared anything about work, I just nod and move on. I was done fighting. That night, she came home a bit earlier than usual. She walked into the house like she had something planned. She didn't even change out of her work clothes first. Instead, she dropped her bag, came over to where I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open, and said, "Hey, so there's this private party on Saturday. My colleague's anniversary celebration. I want you to come with me." I didn't say anything at first, just stared at her, confused. That was probably the last thing I expected her to say to me. For months now, our weekends had been nothing but another workday for her, seminars, webinars, networking brunches, all these important things that didn't include me. Now, suddenly, she wanted us to go to a party together? I didn't hide my reaction. I gave her a straight no. I don't like work parties. Never have. I find them awkward, full of surface-level conversations and fake smiles. Everyone is always sizing each other up, pretending to be more interested in each other's lives than they really are. Plus, I hated watching Lauren in that environment. She always acted like someone I barely recognized. But Lauren didn't let it go. She crossed her arms and looked at me, frustrated. "You always say we don't do things together anymore. Well, here's something. Come with me." Well, she was right. I had been saying that, and here she was, finally doing what I asked. Or at least, that's what it looked like. I looked at her for a long second. Part of me wanted to say no again, just to avoid whatever awkwardness I was sure would happen. But then I wondered this was her trying. Or she noticed how far apart we drifted, and this was her olive branch, even if it felt late and forced. So I nodded, slowly. "All right, I'll go." She smiled and that was it. She just walked off to change out her clothes. And I sat there, wondering if I had just made a mistake or if something was about to change. The night of the party started off like most events do. Lauren had told me it was just a small gathering, and I wasn't expecting anything too flashy. When we arrived, I realized small gathering was a stretch. It was intimate, yes, but also highly curated. Everything was put together with precision. It was a room full of people who measured success in contracts, deadlines, and quarterly reports. Most of them I didn't know. These were her people. Then I noticed a guy walk in. I didn't know his face until the moment someone called him by his name. He was the guy who texts my wife at night. The one who calls at odd times about urgent work matters. I'd asked her about him more than once. She always brushed it off. When she saw him, her entire mood shifted. It wasn't obvious, not to anyone else. But I knew Lauren well enough to notice the change. She looked down for a second, then back up with that kind of trained poise you only pull out when you're trying to hide something. She introduced him to me, casually. "Oh, Austin, this is Mark. We work together." But I noticed the way he looked at her, with his eyes lingering a little too long. He smiled and shook my hand, then went off to mingle. Still, every few minutes, he'd glance our way. He thought I wouldn't notice. But I did. And Lauren? She pretended she didn't. Something sat wrong in my gut. But I stayed quiet. About 40 minutes into the evening, Lauren leaned in and said she was stepping out to use the bathroom, then placed her purse gently on the table and walked away. So, I'm sitting there, but when I looked down at her purse, I saw her phone still lit up. So I picked up her phone, and to my surprise, it wasn't locked. I couldn't believe my luck. It was my chance to know for sure what had been eating at me for so long. I opened the messages, and immediately, I went straight to the thread with her coworker. I had to know if my suspicions were right, if my gut feeling had been telling me the truth all along. As I scrolled, my eyes landed on the last message. My heart dropped as I read it. The message read, "Meet me in the backyard." She hadn't gone to the bathroom like she told me. She'd gone to meet him. Right then, I felt the weight of everything crash down on me. But that wasn't even the worst part. I kept scrolling through their conversation, and what I was seeing just shattered me. Months of messages of secret meetups and of intimacy. I'd been fooling myself, thinking we were just going through a rough patch. No, this was deliberate. This affair had been going on for a long time. And as I scrolled back even further, I found the tone of their messages started to shift recently. Just a week ago, they'd had a fight. This was someone she'd been seeing in secret for months, and felt so strongly about that she'd pushed me aside to make space for him. As I continued reading, I realized that the guy wasn't even supposed to be at this party. From the texts, I could tell they had had some kind of fight, and that's probably why Lauren had been so distant when he showed up. She knew what she was doing. She was only inviting me to the party because the affair had hit a wall. And in that moment, I realized that the woman I had been trying so hard to hold onto had already let go a long time ago. I felt like I'd been a fool for holding on. Every ounce of love I had for her seemed to drain out of me all at once, replaced by this hollow ache. I couldn't stop reading the texts, but it didn't matter. The damage had been done. My marriage was over, and I hadn't seen it coming. I knew I couldn't just sit there anymore, pretending everything was fine. I had my answer. The truth was clear in those messages. I knew then that I couldn't keep lying to myself. So, I pulled out my phone and started taking snaps of these messages. I knew the road ahead was legal now, and in divorce there had to be proof. I've got enough to confirm everything. Then I picked up a piece of tissue paper from the table and reached for the pen I always carried in my pocket. I scribbled out one line, "I hope he was worth breaking your marriage for." I took off my wedding ring and dropped it onto the tissue, folded it over once, and gently placed both with the phone inside her purse. Then I zipped it shut and stood up. I didn't wait for her to return from wherever she had gone, whether it was the restroom or the backyard, to meet him like the text said. I just left. On the drive home that night, I couldn't stop thinking. There's nothing left to cushion the impact of what I just learned. I am not going home, hoping she will come back for me to confront her. I didn't trust myself to speak without doing something I'd regret. I needed distance. So I went straight home while she was still at the party and did the only thing I could manage in that moment. I grabbed a duffel bag and packed the basics. I turned off my phone. I didn't want to deal with her calls, her excuses, or anyone else's questions. I just wanted to disappear for a bit. I didn't know when Lauren would find the note I left in her purse, or how she'd react to reading the words I scribbled on that napkin. I was too numb to care. It wasn't until Monday morning that I turned my phone back on. I needed to call the lawyer I had spoken to before to finalize things and get the divorce moving. As soon as the phone lit up, It vibrated for what felt like a full minute. Voicemails, text messages from everyone, including her, friends, and family. I ignored most of them, but I called my parents back. I told them exactly what happened. She cheated, I said. My dad didn't say much. My mom, though, just told me to come stay with them instead of being in a hotel. So that's what I did. I left everything behind and went back to my roots. There were dozens of messages from Laura, all scrambling to rewrite history. There's nothing between me and him, she said. It's not what it looks like. She tried to frame it like some big misunderstanding, but it wasn't. I had screenshots. What I found interesting, though, was how she never once acknowledged those messages. It made me think she didn't realize I had seen them yet. That was probably why she was so confident in her denials, so smug in her attempts to paint herself as innocent. But everything changed once she got the divorce papers. That's when it must have clicked. That I knew. From that point on, her tone shifted. The guilt wore off, and the clause came out. Texas is a fault-based divorce state. And in Texas, cheating isn't just personal, it's legal leverage. Our house had both our names on the deed, and while she technically earned more money during the marriage, the court looked at everything I did to support her career. The sacrifices I made. The flexible schedule I used to build our home life around hers. That counted for something. Infidelity counted even more. The ruling came down hard on her side. She had to buy out my share of the house. Not just what I put in, but more because of her betrayal, and because I was seen as someone who helped her succeed. In the end, I walked away with a hefty settlement. I didn't celebrate it, but I didn't feel bad either. Lauren was furious. She tried to fight the ruling, but her appeal failed. She wasn't apologetic anymore. She accused me of being the reason she cheated. Said I pushed her away with our constant fights, that I didn't understand her career, that I made her feel alone. I didn't bother responding. I blocked her. Because at some point, you stopped trying to clean up a mess you didn't make. Then I heard she started spreading stories, painting herself as the victim, saying I was controlling, that I abandoned her. I wasn't surprised. When people lose control of a narrative, they rewrite it. But I wasn't about to let my name be dragged through the mud. So I had my lawyer draft a cease and desist. It was direct and loud enough to scare her into silence. After that, I never heard from her again. When I look back now, I don't feel angry the way I did in those first few days. Back then, it felt like everything I believed in just crumbled in my hands. I won't lie to you, it nearly broke me. But time does something. It doesn't erase what happened, but it softens the sharp edges. It helps you breathe again. What I feel now isn't happiness. I'm not here to tell you that walking away made everything perfect. What I feel now is peace. This whole experience taught me something I didn't expect. Survival isn't just about making it through the worst days. It's about holding on to your values, even when the world tries to pull them apart. It's about letting go when love turns into something that no longer nourishes you. I'm still figuring things out. Healing isn't a straight line. So, to anyone going through something similar, it hurts, I know. But keep showing up for yourself. And when it's time, don't be afraid to choose peace. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply leave.